Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest, well, he's in a lot nicer place than I am right now, and I forgot to tell him that he is not supposed to dress up for this one because I'm just wearing shorts. But this gentleman, his background is amazing, but then he transformed his life after a medical issue that he had, and now he is helping others to find different ways to be able to make those life-changing experiences in their lives positive. Leo Treadwell, thanks for being on today.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
Now, you said you were, before we got on, you said you were wearing this nice tie. It was all my fault that I didn't tell you that you didn't have to dress up for this.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, man. I don't even have a tie. I don't even own a tie right now.
I can only imagine. Now, you live in the Dominican Republic right now, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, and it's got to be just an amazing experience down there. It's very different than anything we have over here in the United States. We'll get to kind of why you moved down there, but I want to start back and go back to your roots of, you've been working pretty much since you were a teenager, right?
Yes, completely true. Completely true.
And you worked your butt off. I mean, so you started out with Magic Panda International, and you started when you were 19. What was the premise behind starting that kind of work when you were 19 years old?
Well, I was actually a serial entrepreneur before then.
Okay.
Everything from, the typical, type A man going out and getting jobs mowing lawns at age 12 and having multiple paper routes. And even in the summer, I was going and cleaning fish and, up in the Pacific Northwest where I was living at that time. I'd be cleaning the salmon for people or cleaning the cod for people. And the salmon roe, I would take the eggs and I would turn into steelhead bait and sell that to someone else. So I was really always interested in doing good work and being appreciated for it. That was really the big thing for me. That's always been my motivator. I take a lot of pride in what I do. I
love that. And you were resourceful. Like, where did that come from? Because I have teenagers and younger individuals, and that resourcefulness, it's not something that is bred inside of them.
No, I think that grit is also something that's missing from people these days. I love that. The idea, things get difficult and people say, oh, it's a sign from the universe, I shouldn't be doing it. And it's like, no, that's called work.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. And, your career, as an entrepreneur, it was you're kind of hit in the face when you were diagnosed with a cancerous tumor in your lower back. It was kind of one of those moments, we always say we have those moments in our lives that change us, either for the better or for the worse. What did tell me more about that moment when you found out that you had that cancerous tumor, and what was your mindset at that point?
Okay. Well, I actually have had a lot of those moments in my life, and I had a few of them before cancer as well. Yeah. And so at that particular junction of my life, I had experienced a few pretty deep emotional upsets. And so when I was diagnosed, something inside of me just told me that, this isn't a physical thing. This goes beyond that. I'm sure certainly it's physical. I've got all these mutated cells in my lower back. Right. Although intuitively between, the mentoring I was given from my grandfather, because I spent a lot of time with my grandfather when I was a kid, who didn't have any trust in politicians or doctors or anybody like that. He just really instilled into me, like, hey, if you take your car to the shop and there's nothing wrong with it, and you ask them to take a look at it, they're going to find something wrong. You go in for a physical, they're going to find something wrong,
Right.
So I don't know, I was in a tough spot in my life, and I just walked out of the hospital after my diagnosis, and I said, either I'm going to figure this out on my own or I'm going to pass away. And I was very, very clear that those are my two options. Yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I just turned 25.
Wow. So that kind of perspective at 25 that's a hard perspective. Did you see that in your mindset when, like, cause you said your grandfather was always like, they're going to find something wrong. Was that kind of, feeling or thought, did that manifest in you to maybe move towards more of a positive, like, hey, I can find another way to do this?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And well, it was that, and the fact that somehow I also, through just really strange methodologies, I got introduced to conspiracy theory stuff at a very young age. And I wasn't seeking it.
Right.
But everything from, I don't know, I questioned a lot of stuff. I had a very interesting upbringing, though, too, because I was a unexpected child and not necessarily a wanted child. And then I ended up being adopted by my stepfather. And, my mother had to make some hard decisions whether she wanted to stay with him or keep me in the house. And she had elected to stay with him. So I left home early. And I don't know, I really had this survival, black and white, go this way, go that way, whatever's going to happen is going to happen type of attitude and experience, several times already by that time. And so, I mean, I really found myself in a lot of very interesting situations.
Challenging. I mean, you really had incidents where, like, sometimes people will have one of those in their lifetime and it debilitates them, but you had multiples and it didn't debilitate you. It made you more thirsty for finding that that ability to find your peak performance and kind of hacking your own mind.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still up to it today. Yeah.
But in beautiful climates.
Yeah. How good can you stand it? That's my mantra right now.
How good can you stand? Oh, I love that. Seriously, I love that. Yeah. When do the shirts come out?
The shirts?
You got to start to make some shirts with those logos on it.
I don't know. I'll let somebody else take advantage of that one.
Now I want to get into and talk more about the mind hacking technology. And you've had many iterations of it, but the autobiographical feedback. Now, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, it's my pride and joy, and I think it's definitely something that is going to disrupt the human development industry for sure, unless something happens and they shut down the internet or I die tomorrow or something. But as this information gets out there, it's going to completely redefine what we know about human development, peak performance, and consciousness, spirituality. This is seriously a game changer. This is a very, very big shift because, as you know, there are many motivational speakers, there are many coaches, and there are lots of different seminar leaders. But I would say that well over 99% of them are saying the same thing, and it's all good stuff. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that we live in a story. We have a certain number of limiting beliefs. We have a certain number of thoughts each day. Those thoughts come from the past. We have our programming between, third trimester, in the belly and 7 years old approximately. And then we, start to form our own consciousness. But we have this programming that's there. That's what we have to overcome in our life. That we live in language, that we're meaning-making machines, that we have 6,000 thoughts a day. 90% of those thoughts are negative and from the past, and are going to keep creating tomorrow, that we need to reconstruct a new story, that we have to somehow interrupt our pattern, that we are bombarded with algorithms and corporate narratives and agendas and et cetera that are, competing for our mind. Right. And we know all this stuff. Everybody says it in a different way. We use tools like hypnosis or, again, coaching by asking people questions, and then they come up with their answers and they head in the direction they should be going. We use neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, all these types of modalities we use. But
right,
what's the end game? The end game is to have new thoughts so that we have new empowered emotions that go with those thoughts. And those thoughts and those emotions are organized around what our purpose in life is. And that's impossible. It's impossible. People out there are saying, hey, come here, let's change your thinking. There's no way to really truthfully change somebody's thinking unless someone is in this environment of, seminar after seminar after seminar, reading book after book after book, and, really fighting against their own resistance and addiction to their past personality, their past identity. And even then, they've got this stinking thinking that they're fighting against all the time, and they're verbalizing good phrases to try to, look like they have a positive mental attitude, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But how do we actually literally go inside of the brain and the body mind? We have about 40 trillion thinking and feeling cells, and we have hundreds of trillions of neural connections. How do we actually really, truthfully rewire that, reprogram that? And that's what I'm introducing with autobiographical feedback, is a way to do that for real. Not another shtick, not another spin-off of Tony Robbins or Deepak Chopra or one of those things. Right. But something actually totally different that leverages what we know about applied neuroplasticity, what we know about neural-associative conditioning in relationship to psychology, how we work with our timelines, and how to literally leverage epigenetics and change and when I say this, when I say vibration, I don't mean to sound airy-fairy, because it's not airy-fairy. It's literally the electromagnetic fields and the vibratory status of the cells inside of our body, so that they're actually asking for different types of emotional responses from our hypothalamus and the other endocrine glands that are inside of the body. So
that's, I love that. I love that you've went, so most people go just surface level. And I love how you said in here, you say, is positioning to disrupt the information age with the implementation age. I can't tell you how powerful that statement is, because a lot of people are just giving information and not telling people how to implement it, or people aren't taking that into consideration. How much of your studies in yourself have contributed to really this momentum of what you're doing?
Can you rephrase that? I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
So in other words, how your life has been, you've had a lot of different, like you said, impact moments and different things. How much of your life in trying to, in essence, find your path, your road, has led you to wanting to find this autobiographical feedback and create it into something that can actually unleash that human potential? Okay.
So do you know what mnemonics is?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So mnemonics is a Greek mind hacking technology that's used to create associations to external environmental cues. Okay. So it's a way that you can use it as a pegging system for increasing your memory. So as an example, you could walk into let's say you lose your keys a lot, right? So you walk into the house and you use this tool. You grab your keys and you're like, I'm so sick of losing my keys. I'm going to throw them over there in the corner, and I'm going to pretend like I'm throwing a grenade in the corner. And I'm going to visualize this a grenade going off when I throw my keys in the corner. This is a simple example. Right. So then later in the day, you're like, where are my keys? You're like, oh yeah, that's right. I blew up the corner of the house over there. Let me go grab my keys. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I immediately dove into Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Mace, Bruce Lipton, Candace Pert, everybody that had anything to say with self-healing, peak performance, how to create new emotional molecules inside of the body that are moving us more towards growth and away from entropic events. And as I studied their stuff, I was like, dang, man, this stuff is incredible. It makes sense. It's like, gotta be true. How come everybody doesn't use this stuff out there? Like, what is going on? Why aren't we taught this stuff in school? Like, everybody should know about neural-associative conditioning and neuro-linguistic programming and how to collapse limiting beliefs and rewrite those rules in the subconscious mind. And everyone should know this stuff. Everyone should know that when they go to take a drink of water, it's because every single cell in their body has communicated to a messenger molecule called angiotensin II that said, hey, are you guys dehydrated? And when enough of them cells inside of our body said, yes, we have this conscious thought, I'm thirsty. But it's not because that conscious thought came from nowhere. It's literally all these thinking cells that are directing every one of our thoughts. I thought, why don't we know this stuff? You know? And as I, went along, I learned more about psychoneuroimmunology and psychoendocrinology and, tipping points and critical mass and all these things that actually create those phase transitions inside of the body mind. I thought, wow, if I implemented this stuff into my life, I would be meditating like 4 hours a day, visualizing for 2 hours a day, saying affirmations for another hour and a half a day. Like all of this stuff I'd have to do. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, it's so much. So I said, I got to create a system that automatically does this for me. Automatically does it for me. So I took a couple of very old, ancient techniques, one of them being mnemonics from the Greeks, another one being gematria from Hebrew, Aramaic, also used in Egypt, in the Aztecs, the Mayans used it. So all of these, and the Greeks used it as well. So the gematria goes back to paleolinguistic anthropology, which is the origin of language. Now, what's incredible, what is absolutely incredible and yet so simple, is that we do live in language, and everything is communicating to everything else all of the time. So we change our language and we change our consciousness. We change the program. We change the programming. And so what I did is I invented a new language, and I used that ancient technology of gematria, which takes every phonetic sound in Hebrew, every phonetic sound in Aramaic, same in Egyptian and Sanskrit and everything else, and they apply them to a numeric value. Okay. Makes sense? So if you were to read the Torah or the Kabbalah or even the Bible codes that Michael Dresden talks about, you'll realize, like, wow, these guys were extremely sophisticated when they wrote these texts back then, because there's so many levels of meaning that are woven into the Torah, Kabbalah, and the Bible. Like, and again, why don't we know all this stuff? Why? How come this stuff is kept from us? Because with gematria, when you understand a language like that, it rewires the brain in a totally different way. Because when you have all of a sudden new meanings that are connected to the language of the universe, I mean, everything from subatomic particles to the weights of everything you can imagine is numbers in the universe. And when we start to, if you use a technology like gematria and a pegging system like mnemonics together, and you weave into that neurolinguistic programming, neural-associative conditioning, and all of these other amazing transformational tools, then everywhere you go in your life and you see any combination of numbers, you're going to see a story coming back about your future and the feelings you want to have and the self-talk that you're having to yourself. It's like this marketing campaign for the best you can be for the rest of your life. And it's constantly repatterning new neural networks, and it's constantly training the body mind to create new emotional responses. So that to me is how to implement all the information that's out there. And it's not fair when I go to an event like, I remember maybe 15 years ago, I went to an event by Peak Potential. It's called Millionaire Mind, and I'm sitting there with like 3,000 people, and I'm getting some good insights, and I'm like, cool, I'll make that 54. Cool, I'm gonna make that 32. Cool, that's gonna be 63 based on all these phonetics. And all of those things I integrated into my life super fast. And I'll bet you the 3,000 people that were there, hardly anybody remembers or uses any of that stuff that was there. Right. And I see it on the daily. I still see it every day. Every day. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm you're blowing my mind here. So when you think about like a lot of the things that you're talking about, the neurolinguistics and everything, so are we using these subconsciously and not really applying them to the level to be able to be optimal, or is it that people aren't even using them because they don't understand them?
I'm a master practitioner of neurolinguistics and timeline therapy and hypnotherapy and psycholinguistics and all this stuff, right?
Right.
Getting all of those credentials and going through those courses did not do anything for me, hardly at all.
Okay.
When I put that into my system, and that stuff was now happening to me, so it wasn't just information I learned, but now it was information that was being applied to my life. Let me give an example. In autobiographical feedback, the phonetics go like this: go la th, la th,
la th, la.
Tell me where your tongue is at when you go la la.
La la. It's by my teeth.
Which
top
teeth?
of my mouth.
Right.
Top ones.
Yeah. Now say
th. Same.
Where? Same place, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now say ba. Okay. Where is your tongue and where are your lips? Ba.
Lips are together and tongue's behind.
Right. Now say pa.
Pa. Same place.
Same place, right? So what you'll notice if you say kagakwa, all of those phonetics actually are emitting the same vibrational sound coming from the same tonality, shape of the mouth. Let's say that, I'm sure finances are very important to people, right?
Right.
More than likely. Okay, that's a simple one. So if you say fa, you're going to notice that your top teeth are going to touch your bottom lip. Okay.
Yep.
So I can create. So if I've got number 9 that has the phonetics associated to it, and again, this is just like Hebrew and Aramaic and these other languages. They do exactly the same thing in order to create a very sophisticated way to communicate to themselves and share knowledge that most people will never know. It's a really old cipher technology. It's incredible, actually, especially how many cortexes of the brain and hemispheres it weaves together. It's incredible. So if I take fa-va, and in autobiographical feedback, the sound fa-va has the numeric association to number 9, right?
Okay.
So if I see 99, I can see financial freedom as an example. Okay.
Huh.
So if I see 99 and I thought, well, you know what I encoded into that? Family values, because I want to, or maybe I encoded into that financial freedom, or maybe whatever. A person creates their own autobiography and it feeds back to them. So they create this. We want to use all of the tools that are being used in the industry today, everything from affirmations to visualization, except for taking visualization a couple steps larger into contextualization, because now we know more about the human body mind's multidimensionality. So it's important to incorporate some of that multidimensional aspect of what we used to call visualizing and move more into the contextualizing area. But at any rate, so if let's say I pick up my phone and I'm, looking at a menu that I'm at a restaurant or something like that, and I say, okay, the price of the meal is $5.99, or the cup of coffee or whatever. Okay. So when I see the 59, I say, oh, radiant family. I have this beautiful image of me and my boys and my young daughter, and we're surfing on the beach, and then we're coming back in. We're riding horses up to our buddy's place on a full moon night, and And this is something I'm having like as a surprise for an epic experience to have 3 months from now with my family, and I've decided to put that in there. So every time my thoughts are interrupted and a new pathway is created and my focus is put to the things that I want my focus to be on, then, we all know that whatever we focus on is going to expand. For sure.
Right.
For sure. So if I've got tens of thousands of these anchors that have to do with my finances, my physical health, how to reverse aging. I mean, there's literally like Dr. Ellen Langer from Harvard Medical School. She put people who are over 100 years old into an environment that reminded them of when they're in their 20s. And within a few months, all of their biological markers, like their hearing thresholds, their visual thresholds, their skin elasticity, their bone density, all of these things began to reverse. Because the growth, because the growth hormone levels that the mind was associating to being in their 20s was creating growth hormones when they're in their 20s. Their immunomodulators began to act like they were in their 20s. So we can create anchors that have very distinct, powerful memories of our past that are bringing up those emotions on the regular and instantly creating healing responses inside of the body. Instantly. We know that one of the number one anti-cancer drugs is called interleukin-2, and it's made by a pharmaceutical company called Hoffman Roche. Okay. So interleukin is made by my thymus gland behind my heart. So I can either go get interleukin-2, which mimics the normal interleukin that's made, or I can have a very exciting, fun day and ride horses and get my excitement levels up, and my body will start producing interleukin on its own. And I can also be like, hey, what are some, let me list off 5 of the most epic experiences I've ever had and be able to encode those in there. So when I see them, it stimulates this healing response inside of my body. So that's what I did. I created these anchors all around me that were mimicking the activities that I was supposed to be doing to work towards self-healing in my body. And within 3 months, my whole life transformed. And I didn't have any more pain in my back or nothing. And then I was like, wow, how do I apply? What if I started applying this to everything else in my life, which I started doing? And I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I would not be living here in the Dominican Republic today, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I didn't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I left the house at 5 in the morning to go train with a Golden Gloves boxer. Then I went to the gym and I worked out. Then I went to the beach with an international community, really great friends. We went surfing, then we sat back, had our tea, and great conversations. And on the daily, it's incredible how I consciously designed what I wanted my future to look like. And I'm living that right now. And many people do that.
Right.
Go ahead.
You talk about anchors. I want to go back to the anchors because you're talking about anchors and making those so that you can see those on a daily so that it brings you that enjoyment or that excitement in life. What was the first anchor that you created for yourself?
So the first one I created for myself was a number 12 sun. And it was because this was the first thing that came to my mind. So number 1 has the phonetic sa, and number 2 is the phonetic na. Okay. And there's a lot to this, by the way. I can
imagine.
So many layers to this, which is beautiful. Yeah. So anyways, I realized my biggest hurt in my life at that time was my son, that I had not been a part of his life, just like my father had not been a part of my life. And I realized that I had all of this pain and guilt and anxiety inside of me for not reaching out and trying to connect to this young man that, that I helped propagate 7 years prior.
Right.
And so I made that anchor, and I immediately dove into Tony Robbins' work, okay, create a new association. Because whenever I think of my son, I was just getting massively depressed, and sometimes people feel like I don't even want to have hope, because hope I'm associating pain to, because I just don't believe this is ever going to be possible to have something good, So I'd just rather not even go there. So that's where the neural associative conditioning comes in. So I said, okay, cool, let me create this anchor for number 12. And I'm going to create a new association. So the only way that I could be a bad father is if I didn't care. So that I created a new rule. It's like, I do care. So I am a good father. There's just a time span between me and my ability to show that. So I need to engage and create a new timeline for the future that's totally different from my timeline in the past, because again, the past doesn't equal the future. So I just began to redesign, and I made it really easy to feel successful, and said, if I make a call. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to me. That's okay. I'm putting forth the effort. And then if I put forth the effort, then I'm becoming a good father. So I just rewrote these rules. And then every time I saw number 12, all these new rules would come up, this new image of me and my son being together, the affirmations that I had tied in that, the declarations, the intentions that I was setting, and the feelings that I wanted to have if we were together in that beautiful spot. And that's the key. To be able to, on demand, create emotional alchemy inside of your body, so that you create the emotion that's going to attract the experience instead of the opposite. because we don't want things. We want the feelings we think those things will give us. So create the feelings first,
Wait, say that again, because that is one of the most powerful lines I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, well, so like if somebody says, I want to be financially free, what's that feel like? I don't know. Well, you better get clear on what that feeling is, because you're not going to attract financial freedom until you're super clear on what that feeling is. And so we don't want things. We want the feelings we think the things will give us.
That's so powerful. I love that. Now, the anchors, do they change? Do some drop off, or do you constantly keep all of the anchors with you?
Man, I have had so many anchors that I've created and kept. I've had so many anchors that I've created, totally integrated into my life, and now they're just a part of me and I don't use anymore. I have so many anchors where I can see 1, 2-digit number. Like, I was listening to something by Bruce Lipton last night. He was saying, this is how you change the unconscious mind, because I'm going to go see Bruce Lipton. I'm going to see Bruce Lipton in a couple of weeks. I just left seeing Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden and a few other guys, because I want to see what other people are teaching right now.
Right. Exactly.
And anyway, he said the only way that you can change the programming of the unconscious mind is by saying affirmations and hypnosis. And he said, if you tell yourself, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, eventually you're going to be happy. And I was like, oh man, I remember those days when I used to think that way. I see number 70. I see number 74, and it's every time I see number 74, it's I'm beautiful, I'm happy, I'm brilliant, I'm powerful. Because again, you have that I am for the 7, and then the beautiful, powerful, brilliant, abundant. That's all for the ba-pa that's linked to number 4. So I have this large list of things that go off for certain anchors that are out there, where it's like 15 different things that I'll run through, and then I feel the feelings for those and the questions that are associated to those, and then I alchemize and blend those with where I'm at in the moment, creating all new chemicals inside of my body. When we understand how cellular biology works and the process of mitosis and how the membrane works with the cell works with the chemical messengers and peptides and transmitters, it's fascinating, because no matter how great of a state I might be in, let's say we're going horseback riding and we're galloping down through a river in this like Jurassic Park jungle area that, we have these epic horseback rides around here. So I might be boom, 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 going through and just feeling so exhilarated. And I look over and I see my wife, and she's riding alongside of me and super excited as well.
Right.
The moment that adulation and an excitement comes inside of my body, my hypothalamus and, again, the other chemical producing glands, they start showering and studying the outside of these membranes. If any of those cells don't have enough receptor sites to receive everything that's being given to them, they're encoding and telling the next cell from the process of mitosis to be born with more of those receptor sites. Huh. So this works in a negative way, because if we fall into a state of depression, that's why we get into these big loops where we get more and more depressed, because new cells are being born craving more depressing chemicals. But we can also have tens of thousands or millions of anchors around us that are constantly firing off great emotional responses, thus training the body mind to be craving and asking for more of those peak experiences.
Wow.
And that's incredible that we're not implementing this, or it's not a conversation at the table every day, because anybody with any disease, if they're feeling crummy about having that disease and feeling depressed or like a victim, they're just propagating it. But if they understand how their body mind works, it's thrilling to know I'm in the driver's seat. I'm in the driver's seat. There's actually a lot I can do here. A lot.
I love that. I love that. People need to go to IamTheMatrix.com. You can find out so much more. You have live events, you have online programs. Honestly, I think we could probably talk about this for a few hours here, if not days. Amazing stuff. I can't thank you enough for coming on today, and definitely I will have you on again because I want to know more. I always end with the 3 questions, and are you ready for those 3 questions?
Sure.
All right. So if you could go back to your 18-year-old self and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Oh boy. Jeez Louise.
Start a different career field? No.
I'm one of those types of people that I've really appreciated the difficult times I've had in my life. So I don't think I would try to avoid any of those.
I love
things.
that. Yep.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, on my 18th, right when I was 18, I got my first movie role with John Travolta and his wife, Kelly Preston. I was playing a Russian spy. And I walked off set. But man, I'll tell you what, if I would not have walked off set, my life would be completely different. I was in another movie afterwards, a human development movie. It was a follow-up to The Secret that no one has ever heard of, hardly at all.
What is that? All right, you got to say what is it?
I shouldn't really say that either, geez. It's called Pass It On.
Pass It On.
But, it's got all the guys that were from The Secret in there for the most part, and, a couple of other hooligans like myself.
That
was a really, that was a really cool time of my life. And I was just so full of myself. I thought, if I want to get another movie, I'll just get in another movie or something.
Hey, we all have to go through this. I like your explanation that you can't hope to change things in the past to adapt your future. I think we all have those challenges, and you have to enjoy that you got to go through those and where you are now from them.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, here it is. If you could give people 2 things, everybody goes through challenges and struggles and traumas. If they could incorporate 2 things into their daily habits, whether it be in the morning or in the evening or whenever it is, what would those 2 things be and why?
Okay, the first thing would be to, before you get out of bed in the morning, start to train yourself to do a pre-rise ritual where you're training yourself. Just take 5 minutes before you get out of bed and get clear. What are the feelings I want to have today, and what experiences am I going to have today that will give me those feelings? And so that's one.
Okay.
Because again, we're only looking for the feelings. So we could have the experience and not even give ourselves permission to actually feel like, wow, you know what? Like this morning, I have a buddy of mine, and he's an international polo player. He just got back to the north coast here of the Dominican. And we sat down and, had some breakfast this morning. And I could have easily hung out with him and just took it for granted instead of being super excited and feeling the connection of one of my best friends, Right. But I was very clear, like, hey, I'm going to go really enjoy my time with Jonathan this morning. And I'm going to soak that up. I'm going to be present in the value of having this relationship and the fact that he's back in town and the reflection that he offers me as a mentor. He's a bit older than I am, and as a community contributor. So, I gave myself permission to have that experience and feel those feelings before I even got out of bed.
That's huge.
Yeah. And the second one is everybody should have at least minimum very clear 1-year goal for what their, just absolute dream, desire, epic story, epic life, hero's journey, messianic voyage, what it should look like a year from now, where they should be going. And I mean, again, because we got to give the universe the information. So that word information is information. It actually allows something to come into form, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We give the universe that information, and then we want to emit it. So the word emit is time backwards. So we emit that, and then we come back from that place to the present. So I can lay in bed in the morning, and after I get clear on my experience for the day and the feelings I want to have, I can say, cool, let me visualize where I'm at a year from now. We'll make table back 9 months, 6 months, 3 months. Okay, now I'm back to today again. Great, hop out of bed. But I took the time to get super clear on what I'm all about before I even put a foot on the ground. And what is this? This is strengthening the mind. It's purifying the mind. It's going to the gym with the mind. I mean, we as a collective, 8 billion people on this planet with 6,000 thoughts a day, we are sending out 48 trillion prayers every single day that's creating tomorrow. And in a lot of ways, we're not doing a very good job. Our potential to be just the most like I love first responders, by the way, Rob. And I can only imagine how you must have felt on 9/11. Yeah. And I've done a lot of martial arts, and I've worked with law enforcement. I've trained the military, Navy's Leadership Academy, et cetera, et cetera. But I've always loved first responders. You're just really beautiful people, for the most part. And, like I've hardly ever met anybody, that I didn't find to be amazing that was a firefighter or ambulance driver or whatever,
Right.
So, I think it's just really key to make sure our heart's in the right place before we get out of bed. So
I love those. I always, the wisdom that comes through in these podcasts, I love that because it's different perspectives. Like you said, you go and research other people to find out what their perspectives are. And that way you can get a greater picture of how can I be this greater person or have lived to more potential. So I love those two. All right. This last one's going to be interesting for you. So if you could sit at a firehouse table and have coffee with 3 individuals, they can be deceased or alive, who would those people be and why?
Oh, cool. All right. So, wow. I'm a huge fan of our founding fathers. Mm-hmm. So I would probably, first inclination is Jefferson. I'd want to sit down with Jefferson.
Yep.
I've studied these guys intensely. I mean, Jefferson wrote 30,000 letters with a feather, and I've read as many of them as I could get my hands on. Wow. And the complexity of this gentleman, being a slave owner, yet being an abolitionist, trying to free the slaves, writing the first 12 iterations of the Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution, were geared around all men are created equal. And yet he had to fight against, the times he was living in. Right. And so to live such a complex life and actually even have children and be madly in love with Sally Hemings that he traveled through Europe with, but he couldn't be with at home. Someone who purchased made the Louisiana Purchase, yet never traveled more than 50 miles west of Monticello. I mean, what an interesting fella,
Yeah, no kidding.
So Thomas Jefferson would be one. And I would love to sit down with Adolf Hitler. And
I've heard that one before, yeah.
Yeah, find out what his motivators were and find out who else was involved and who else, set him up to be able to make so much happen with so little resources right out of the gate, because there's more to that story for sure.
Right.
And I'd like to know, what we've been sold and what's true. And I'm not trying to give him an excuse for being who he is. I'm just curious.
No. Information is king. It's to find out.
Yeah. And probably Jesus Christ,
I love this. That is a group right there. I love that.
Yeah.
It rounds it. I mean, yeah. Getting, you can tell how your thought processes are very deep just by looking at those 3 individuals from many different backgrounds. And having that process. I love it. And you've been on the stage with a lot of gentlemen and individuals who are quite revered, from Les Brown to Brian Tracey to Deepak and Mark Victor Hansen. So that's a group of individuals too that would be pretty good to have coffee with. Yeah, and I've been lucky to spend some time. I was on Nelson Mandela's security team in the year 2000, and it was just a lot of really interesting people that I've been able to, I worked with Jane Goodall for years, and she was amazing. There's a lot of amazing people out there, Just takes time to open yourself up to having that opportunity to see them, right? Yeah, and put your focus on being around those types of people and making it happen. Yeah. Perfect. Hey, it has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you on today, Leo. And make sure people go to IamTheMatrix.com. You can find out more. You can find out how to connect with Leo. Thanks again for being on the show today. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.